Dr. Pawan Anand, ADSM retired. He was commissioned into the Corps of Engineers and was awarded the President's Gold Medal at the National Defense Academy of being first in order of merit, and later the Sword of Honor at the Indian Military Academy. Anand commanded an armored engineer regiment, an engineer brigade in a strike corps, and was chief engineer of Western Command. During the Kargil War, proliferation that began major infantry brigade is later was in he has been an instructor, IMA, and college engineering. He was the selected of DSSC, HDMC, and the AGC, and represented India in several delegations and cooperation conferences abroad. He has also held three appointments dealing with acquisitions and procurement. He has been awarded twice by the Army and by the President of India for his distinguished service. General Anand is a qualified mechanical engineer, a master's in strategic studies, and has a doctorate. He is currently director of USI Center for Atmanirbhar Bharat and Emerging Technologies at the USI of India, looking at the intersection of geopolitics, geostrategy, and engineering technologies, having recently pioneered its Cyber Center of Excellence, a PhD guide for strategic studies, professor, University of Madras, and a mentor for strategic gaming exercises at the National Defense College. He has a number of publications to his credit and is a regular speaker at various national and international events on geopolitics and geostrategy, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. A warm welcome to you, General. May I now introduce Manish? Manish Kumarja is a defense editor and a security expert. For more than 2 decades, he has covered more than 35 countries worldwide on the ground for national and international media. He served as a deputy editor in the Indian Express Group, Financial Express, Business World, BW Defense, DNA newspaper, and prestigious international media, including the Japanese press and Geopolitical Monitor. He is a distinguished author of a book on military policy with the Indian and international patent copyrights. He has also published research papers and book chapters in national and international venues. Currently, Mr. Jha leads and hosts the national program on key policies, including foreign affairs, defense, and economy on Sansad TV. He is also a columnist for the Times of India. He is also the consulting and contributing editor to SP's Land Forces, Aviation and Naval Forces. Mr. Jha is a senior visiting fellow and editorial advisor at India's leading military institution, the United Service Institution of India, USI, the national think tank of Indian Armed Forces, which has been in existence since the year 1870. He is also associated with the Ministry of Defense, so Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, MPIDSA. Mr. Jha also founded Strategic Insights, a launched IPs in defense and strategic affairs. He co-hosts a national program with the DRDO, the Ministry of Defense, on the technology acceleration for critical and advanced technology towards a national security and military modernization. In 2023, Mr. Jha initiated and launched a flagship program, an international initiative with the military leaders from the Army, the Air Force, and Navy, policymakers, leading Indian defense industry leaders, global original equipment manufacturers, and global military policy leaders of friendly countries and partners. His writings on national security, military technology, strategic affairs, and policies are widely discussed in India's political debates and deliberations. For his work on national security, he has received multiple citations from the world's leading think tanks, researchers, and security analysts, and emblems and awards from the chiefs of the Indian Armed Forces and the Ministry of Defense. He has been recognized and felicitated by leading scientists and military leaders in the presence of the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh in 2024 for his initiatives for the MIL, Military Technology for India. He was awarded the title of Professor of Practice for his works and contribution to national security, foreign affairs, and military technologies. Mr. Jha also teaches at the university based in Hyderabad. He studied at Shailesh J. Mehta School of Management, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and received his Press Fellowship from Oxford University, KPF. He graduated from the University of Delhi. Currently, his doctoral thesis in military policies, R&D in defense in India is underway to be published by AIDSS. Welcome to you, Manish. On my right is the co-author, Professor Amit Das, an alumnus of the Banaras Hindu University and an academic and researcher at the ICFAI University, Dehradun. He is a distinguished author with Indian and international patents, copyrights, and an impressive portfolio of published research papers and book chapters in both national and international venues. His research spans artificial intelligence, data science, and digital diplomacy, where he brings a forward thinking approach to these evolving fields. A thought leader on AI enabled future organizations, thus explores the transformative impact of AI on business and society, comparing AI policies across different countries to better understand global approaches to technology governance. His commitment to innovation and knowledge sharing continues to inspire students, professionals, and academics alike. Rather long, I'm afraid, but the idea is to let you know what a distinguished panel we have. Congratulations, Manish and Professor Das, on your very interesting book. This is a fascinating book about the kind of transformation that has been going on in India since 2014 when the present government came into office. And it gives in great detail how the policies on military and foreign policy, all those things. It's a very fascinating book. Let me invite Manish to speak about the book himself. Manish.
uh, uh, Honorable President Venkat Narayan, President-elect Mr. Awad. It's an honor to have a distinguished general whose introduction you have heard now, General Pawan Anand, and my co-author, Professor Amit Das, a brilliant professor. We co-authored this book. Why book on a strategic shift? In my deliberation of 2 decades of coverage military affairs, uh, look at the first aspect. Our military is actually the battle hardened. The few military in the world in the modern times which is actually battle hardened. We fought many wars from 1948 onwards when we got independent until the 1965 to 1971, and we continued fighting war. The the idea is that military uh, comes out when there's a national crisis there. There's a crisis of national security. Uh, Military comes in to protect the country, does its job. But what about, is there any coherent doctrinal policies of Indian military? Largely for the over the decades, we have been knowing through the government papers and research paper, government policies that we are more or less a defensive military, our postures, our India's postures, our foreign ministry also talks about, in the sense that India's has largely been a defensive force. What does it mean? It's simply like, yes, somebody who attacks on our sovereignty, we will retaliate, in that sense. But that there has been ambiguity. Look, anybody with India is now as the fifth largest economy. It's a closely linked the military policy, the foreign policy, the maritime. If they want to understand what is our cohesive doctrine, where there's a shift, and the shift is visible from, of course, it's the government. Politics is not different from what a military does. It's driven by our country's interest, our trade interest, our maritime interest. These all factors, and my understanding, led to write a book that how a military is shifting, and it has shifted. Let me tell you very radically now. We won't be calling a defensive military force. Rather, I put a word, a tactical offensive force military of India, and that's a seismic shift. And this is what led me to believe and led me to write this particular book that gives at least some cohesion of idea where our militaries are going as a nation which is emerging. And look, nation does not operate in isolation. Nation has to act when there is a counter-terrorism, there is attack on sovereignty. So lack of a doctrinal approach to measure the cohesiveness of Indian military, the shift, this book attempts to do that. Still we see we have very lately in 2004, uh, almost in 2000 we started devising our military doctrinal, army per se, air force per se, and lately air force has devised is new doctrinal, but still there is no such cohesion. There's no still national lack of national security doctrinal. So number one, my book attempts to do that, and this Operation Sindoor has been a sort of throwing fire into this whole debate for anybody to refer. In fact, for a military to refer, look, there's two kind of doctrinal shift. One is a doctrine, and second is operational. The operational is, of course, a privy to the military. Like a general must be when he was studying, he was under the training. He must be taught the operational doctrine. But for larger public, as a nation, as a democratic nation, it's our right to know where the military is heading. We don't need to be ashamed of hiding under the ambiguity, and also as a country which direction is going. So whole summation, whole aspect, I try to put it in this book. It's my attempt to do that, but more or less, apart from the doctrinal shift, I also focus on the military modernization. Indian military, we have the fourth largest budget in the world, the 74 billion US dollar. It's almost like 10% of the GDP. Look, we take a sizable budget to put in the defense, and that's our requirement. But people need to know where the money is going, what we are buying, and there's a shift also, and that has been a seismic shift that we don't want to buy. We want to build here in India. We want to be more self-reliant in India. We understood in the foreign policy that strategic autonomy, when it times to war, in times of crisis, if you are not self-reliant, there should be if you promise and if you commit yourself to strategic autonomy, you should be self enough, strong enough to portray yourself in terms of your military capability. What do we mean military capability? We should be able to do make our own fighter jets, submarine, and that should be built in India. That seismic shift happened right after 2014 and largely 15. It is not government per se, but this shift happened. So my book also attempt to put this in the perspective. And third, it also argues that yes, while recently Chief of Defense Staff has pointed out, we need not have a written security, national security document. But I differ to the perspective with the honor, due respect to the Chief of Defense Staff. A doctrine, a perspective which talks about the cohesive approach of operational, also capability, where we are going after 10 years in terms of whole plan plus capability that should be on the paper. It should be accessed by 1.4 billion people, and they should be knowing the military is heading, where the budget is heading, where the capability is heading. So this book also talks about what you hear, the Make in India component of that. Second, I wrote this book before the Operation Sindoor, and I talked about our counter attack formation, and which we have seen now after Balakot, after Uri. We were still ambiguous. We were talking about, yes, India would retaliate when somebody attacks our sovereignty. Terrorists should not go unpunished, even is global phenomena, but we also emerging nation try to put forth this argument. But still, there's ambiguity. Has this particular incident, where we gone deep into the Pakistan, change radically? Yes, this is my perspective, and this don't does not represent by a national paper by military is enough indication there is a seismic shift in India's military policies, and that's we are ready to do a tactical offensive. We are ready to be protect our maritime. Our interest is a global trade attached to maritime goes much beyond Indian Ocean to Indian Pacific. And that's another shift I'm talking about in this book, how we are going to address this basically. So we are addressing a larger a domain which is much wider. We are not confined to just defensive force in Indian Ocean, but we need to protect, not only protect our trade, but sort of bring more dimension to our trade, go further Indo-Pacific. And for that, we need you have a piracy, you have a threat from China, you have a threat from many other non-state actors. How can Navy sort of do justice to that? And that is also a change in a posture that we are going further. We are changing it. We're ready to protect, to go extra mile, and that is somehow related to our shift in the military. So this is what they're trying to bring forth. Another aspect of military shift is the space. We are very proud of our space and ISRO, and we don't talk about these military applications the way we have seen Operation Sindoor. And my book also talk about how space is used in the military and the civilian domain to the military domain, and it's a unabashed sort of approach which we have taken. Still not in the paper, but we have come out with the cyber security or cyber space sort of doctrine. So these are the changes which are very visible, which is happening after many decades of independence, and it's a seismic shift I'm talking about. Uh, and last, we talk about military and foreign policy. So foreign policy is these days it's about the economic might. We have seen who can access foreign power is all about the tariff, all about the economic stronghold. You strengthen your economy, and your more military power need to back off. Look at the United States; it's a prime example. You cannot be immune to that. No matter how defensive you are. The shift now into the maritime we talked about, attached to the foreign policy and the military policy, it presents a cohesive picture. Yes, we're going to be more aggressive if it comes to country like India to protect its trade, its sovereignty, and this what this book attempts to do that. Thank you very much for this.
Manish, may I now invite Professor Das.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And good evening. As my co-author already delivered all the things, but I want to discuss with you some hidden part of this book because the discussion. The first thing is this book approach of this book is creating of this book is the interdisciplinary. Means I am an AI professor and he's from the media. It was very tough for us to do the jointly work, but we done it right. And what is the best part of this book? This is the important question. After 2014, after this Modi government, you see the lot of activities they have done for the defense and defense industry. Now, then we pick this point and how we should do the multi-dimensional analysis and how this is good for the India. And we both of us are, I think we both of us have done a lot of work for this book or complete all the analysis of the this complete defense what is government is doing. The first chapter which we had, this is the shift of the Indian foreign and military policies after 2014 here. Basically we try to find out the which kind of paradigm shift is going on and how government is going to make the defense industry defense as a more aggressive part of the Indian economy. And the second is the Digital India Initiative. Yes, this is very important. Nowadays, most of the countries that they are practicing the digital diplomacy, we want to find out, we want to give a small touch of the digital diplomacy, how government is using the digital technologies to change the Indian concept, like you see the UPIs and all the our facilities the government is doing. So we presented here the very beautiful analysis about this, the impact of this global on the global economy. The third is the how government is using the military modernization. Now you see that there's a very beautiful thing that we are only talking about the AI in the military. But if you think about it, if we do the development in the AI in the military, then it's also good for the other fields also. Suppose you take the example of the image processing in the military. The same algorithm we may use for the biology and or the other kind of an agriculture field also. It means that if you do the more vertical development in the AI in the military, then then counter effect we also use in other fields of the India also. And there's another point which we the policies, what government is doing, the naval policies, and we presented it a very beautiful kind of analysis about how the naval policies are government now, how they are taking the new projects. You see the lot of projects government is taking, and which kind of technology now government wants to take, like acoustic submarines and acoustic sensors now government is taking in India. And beside this, we also did this naval strategic roadmap, Sagar roadmap, how government is using this for the global dominancy and military different technologies. Means the overall this book, that during the completion of this book, we have also used the NLP technology to find out, to collect information from the different sources from the last 10 or 12 years. And then we do the deep analysis of the all the all the content, and after that then we given the complete knowledge mapping of complete work, and this is in the form of this book. This is from my side brief. Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much, Amit. May I now invite our chief guest, General Anand, to make his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to Manish, whom I've been interacting with frequently over the last 1.5 years. We actually did a very interesting defense conclave February last year, which was very well received, and I thought we had some pretty good outcomes out of that defense conclave as well. Usually conclaves are all about just talking, but I think we got some good action out of that conclave as well. But it's a pleasure to be here with Mr. Venkat as the president of the FCC. Thank you, Amit, for letting me go through your book, and I'm going to pick up this copy now. And thank you, Mr. Awad, because I'm sure I'll get an opportunity to interact with you and the members all over again. But it's great to see some, familiar faces here as well. So I see Narang here. It was a pleasure to meet Ambassador Fabian. I've met probably once or twice earlier, and Mr. Karthikeyan, of course, has been a mentor at the NDC as well. So I'll talk about the book. In fact, let me tell you, I just laid my hands on this book 15 minutes ago. So I'm not going to talk about what they've written in the book. I just heard about it. But we did want to touch upon some aspects which Manish said we can discuss, is about India's. Is there a shift in India's foreign? I think over the last years, and pardon my throat, I've been at work for the last 5 days of the UPSC, and it's been long, grueling days. So do bear with me. Over the last about 5 years or so, I think the globe has seen a very wide, volatile shifts, geopolitical shifts. And these shifts have had global impacts. Some of them have been felt immediately, and some of them have been felt over a period of time. But one thing is certain, and that is that there is going to be uncertainty. And uncertainty unsettles us, but it also produces opportunity. So I think as we navigate our way through these uncertain waters, let us keep looking for those opportunities. And as something like a very somber thing like a massacre happens at Pahalgam, let us also look for what is the opportunity for us to recalibrate the way India approaches such incidents. So, India today sits in a very, very unique position. Some people may like it, some people may not, but that's the way we are. Russia continues to have with us a special and privileged strategic partnership. It's a bond of trust which has seen decades go between us. At the same time, we have a very well progressed relationship now with the US. And these are the two poles that he used to. Terms, since I was also involved with them, I have seen, I've been doing procurements from about 17 odd countries. I was doing international procurement when I was sitting in the chair. And we would go through a normal contractual process to procure from Russia, Belarus, Ukraine. We were going through a very detailed FMS, for sales process with the Americans. It would take months and years to go through the entire process. And I think somebody in Washington won't be liking me too much because as we went through that, I found that we were paying them a lot of money, but we weren't getting what we were indenting for. And we would keep getting answers like, today it's in Congress, yesterday it was in the warehouse, and so on. So I think things didn't take off the way it was, and I had to stop the payments. And I was told that I may be going against contractual obligations. But all of you might have heard a few years ago when Defense Minister Parikar put a stop to the payments that we made to the United States, which we were making in excess of what we were getting from them at that point. So obviously the processes had not yet fallen in place. Are they in place today? Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. But much has also happened. So we had the DTTI, the Defense Technology Transfer Initiative, didn't work too well. In fact, some of our people got poached. Then we came with the ISET. The ISET was there for almost 2 to 3 years, beginning to pick up, very desultory. And now with the Trump administration, we have something called the trust. So we are moving from one sort of a process to another. And I hope that something genuinely will come out of it, because trust, I don't recollect the entire acronym, but it literally comes out to say that let's speed up the process of transfer of utilization of technologies, transfer and utilization of technologies. So we seem to be riding two boats, and we, at the moment, it appears are riding it rather well. But we need to be circumspect as to where we stand. And there are so many other things besides the military. I mean, we've been buying oil from Russia, but we've been also and we've been abstaining at the United Nations. But at the same time, we have turned around and asked the US not to interfere in our neighborhood. So it works both ways. As far as Europe goes, there are throes of change, and our relationship with Europe is probably going to also undergo some very interesting changes. It's going to be more bilateral than EU-based, it appears. Although we had von der Leyen here, and we expect to do some FTA, and we hope to take things forward. And I Myanmar has a deep Chinese influence, and then Pakistan comes up every now and then with some incident which is designed to bring us back in the snakes and ladder format of Ludo. uh, the snakes and ladder game. So we can be assured that our neighborhood is going to keep us engaged, and we better stay more and more engaged with our neighborhood. So when we talk about our foreign policy and when we talk about our doctrines, I think we need to keep our focus. And there's a very interesting term which we use in the military. You know, there are areas of interest, there are areas of influence, and there are areas of effectiveness. So let us now define where we are going to be absolutely effective, where are our areas of influence, and where are our areas of interest. I think if we can define them more clearly and put our focus that way, maybe we'll do a better job of it, if I may put it that way. Although I may be nobody to point fingers at how difficult it is to run the foreign policy of a nation, but we all know where we are today. Also, I think we need to be very wary of the fact that state and non state actors are getting blurred. And therefore, this action which has taken place at Pahalgam and our response thereon has attempted to give some sort of a sense as to how blurred we will allow it to be. So, if we want clarity, we have to ask for clarity. Otherwise, we will demand clarity. So I think we're going in the right direction, and you're all aware about the policy that we have now enunciated, and it's come out in the PIB release as well, which clearly says that an act of terror will be an act of war. Now, what that implies in terms of actual action on the ground is going to be very interesting. So, we used to have you have to have a matrix of contingencies built up. And you say, okay, if these things happen, this is the way we react. And it's very interesting. Just after Pahalgam, I was giving a talk to some firm which handles financial securities. And there were 35 companies which were there in this webinar. And they wanted me to give an assessment of what is going to happen. And Pahalgam had happened 2 days ago. And my take to them was, and they wanted to know, is India going to attack Pakistan tomorrow? Is the market going to crash tomorrow? So my take to them was, it could be anywhere between 2 weeks to 2 months. And thank God we don't know, because that's how it should be. The enemy should be kept as much guessing as you are, because it will be that much more effective when we hit them. But one of them came up with a very interesting question. I don't know if you know him, Rahul Arora, who comes on CNBC, So he asked me, he says, we have these contingencies worked out. When contingency A comes up, so and so circumstance. Our foreign policy and our doctrine, the number of parameters that we will have to keep bringing in will have to be calibrated to that particular circumstance. And that circumstance will may be something which we have not predicted. So I hope AI will help us do that. And I hope Amit will help us produce those various contingencies that may come up. AI works through its logic circuits. Hopefully, it will give to us through the machine learning and all that, maybe what we should be doing. But at the end of it, the human will have to take the decision. So I think India finds itself today as a balancer in the Indo-Pacific. A lot of people don't like this word now, Indo-Pacific. Mr. Putin is very clear that he doesn't like it. And they look at India as an alternate power to China. On the other hand, Mr. Putin was also on record to say that just a few days back that the US is trying to create a divide between India and China. So you could see that he was harking back to the Primakov doctrine of 1954, where they used to talk about the RIC, Russia, India, China triangle. So India definitely is not looking at China at the moment, but Russia would definitely like to have us do that and create a kind of a Eurasian mass, which then could become yet another pole uh, in what they call as a multipolar world. And it's not happening in a hurry. I don't know whether it'll happen at all, but it's yet another thought which has been injected into the geopolitical mess that we are in. So, as I said, now India has made it clear that there will be a very robust response, and I could use the term assured retaliation in case of a terrorist attack. The problem that will come up is to define where in the escalatory matrix where we will be when that incident occurs. How far will we want to take it up the escalation matrix with our response? And the second problem will be to identify who are the sponsors of that particular terror group. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of work which will go into this to build up those correlations and linkages. Whether you call it uh, the resistance force, which is actually, originally a banned organization, a terrorist organization from the Pakistani side, or you want to call it anything, everything has to come together very quickly. And our time, effort, human resource, and funds for creating a security which extends into the inimical and then builds layers inwards. So there's a lot of work that we will have to do. Some has already been done, but there's a lot of work that we'll have to do. Then we have to go through the technology frontiers, and we have heard a lot about what India did and how Make in India worked during Ops Sindoor. Some of it is maybe, very. It's great to know that some of our stuff really worked and it worked very effectively. We also now need to be very sure that we don't celebrate prematurely, and we make sure that what we are building has to be built faster, has to be built better, and has to be made very, very effective for the next round that is going to come, which is bound to come. And then we also need to sort out our processes. And I think this is where real emphasis and a mindset change is required. We'll have to get over the bureaucratic approach when it comes to modern technologies, at least. We'll have to get over the bureaucratic approach in multi-domain operations. So we'll have to be very agile and we'll have to make people accountable. So if we find that what we wanted was not getting delivered in time, and I think the Air Force chief made a very, very telling point yesterday, though for those of you who heard him, wherein he said that projects are signed for knowing that they'll not get delivered in time, which is sad. Let's make sure that our processes are solved before we get into those issues. So I don't want to turn this into a monologue, but I hope this sets the context for you to pick up this book. Because what I have seen after I leafed through it and I just read it in parts, I think Manish and Amit have done a great job of, uh, in some ways, compiling a lot of things together in a very small space and putting a lot of ideas together, of their own ideas together into it. It's been done in just this much of page space. So I'd love to go through it in more detail, but I days to come. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, General. It's a pleasure having you here, listening to your remarks. Thanks. Uh, we will now throw the session open to Q&A. May I ask you the first question? The book was written before Ops Sindoor happened, but this Make in India has been going on for a decade plus now. What is your assessment of the way the Indian manufactured weaponry worked in Operation Sindoor?
Thanks. So I think one of the high points of Ops Sindoor has been that what has been made um within India, Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and so on, which many of us would actually turn around and say, look, nothing's happening. A lot of us would deride the fact that it's been so many years and we haven't achieved enough. I think has been somewhat put to rest. It has displayed that we have the capability. It has also displayed that what we made, if this worked in these scenarios, then we have definitely a chance of making world class, futuristic weapon systems. But are we there yet? I think we have got a lot of work on our hands to do. So let's look at it how. Um, you have the, some of you would be very familiar, more familiar with it than I am now. You know, there is this missile Akash. I've been seeing it when I was in service, and we used to see these on the vehicles, and I used to always wonder, I hope it works. And I'm so glad it's worked. And it's worked very effectively. We know that Akash has actually been protecting our skies. And I had people tweeting me from abroad to say, never knew India had this kind of weaponry. We thought it was there, Iron Dome, and we see it over Ukraine and Russia. We never knew India had this kind of weapon. So the Akash missile has acquitted itself very well. The Akash Tir has worked very well. The Akash Tir also has been almost very high indigenous content. That's basically the system that controlled and navigated and tracked and then fired and made sure that missiles hit where they had to hit. So the Akash Tir system has also worked very well, and that's all indigenous. The BrahMos. The BrahMos has turned out to be one of our uh, flagship content in it. But the fact remains that co-development and co-production been proven to be effective in the Indian context. So if we can do it with them, we can do more things with them. We can do more things with someone else as well. So all along we've been saying that we cannot be self-sufficient. We want to be self-reliant. We have been having a very detailed offset policy and such like. Everything may not have worked, but the co-development and focus on co-development and co-production, I think, is really the way forward now. And those who come forward and do it with us will probably gain as much as we do from it, and vice versa. But I think it's still going to be a long way before we can actually develop complete systems entirely on our own. Some maybe, but we are on the way, and that's great news. I, as I mentioned, I think this is not a time to just celebrate this. This is the time to actually roll up our sleeves and get deeper into the effort. So it's great news, but there's a lot more to be done, and I'm sure there are better ways to do it than we've been doing it till now.
Thank you. Manish, I want to ask you, self-sufficiency in weaponry, what percentage of the equipment we use in India now is being made here on our own or through collaborations with the Russians or whoever? And will it ever be possible for India to be completely self-sufficient as far as defense equipment is concerned?
I think it's a simple but also a complex questions. We have to understand. First of all, let's admit our 60% of military equipment is still of Russian origin. As General Anand has pointed out, in fact, the Sukhoi, and we talk about Sukhoi engine, they are given by Russia to us. We have a manufacturing unit basically, which we call ourselves now. So most of the system, in fact, the BrahMos had a Russian input. Many of our high-grade military system, we understand the warfare has changed. It's hybrid, it's complex. Old system might not work. What General has also pointed out, let me repeat, we can't be celebrating for the fact that in the 4 days limited war, with a small, I said, state actor like Pakistan, which was underprepared. Country like India need to look further beyond the map, further to the north adversary, which we call openly, and then prepare for time. So 60% to 65% are basically of foreign origin. We use multiple fighter jet from Mirage to Sukhoi to Jaguar, and make they all are foreign origin. To admit the fact that we have recently developed Tejas, but it's not a combat worthy yet. It's a supporting aircraft. What do you mean by supporting aircraft? That it will support a convoy of jets attacking the enemy country. AMCA is advanced medium combat aircraft, which we talking about down the line 10 years to be fully indigenous. and then so other programs. For example, our submarine has also in the help of Naval Group, which is a French company. And third point that you raised, that concept is we have seen in a different directions. So not mean we don't collaborate. Technology, if we don't have the ideas, free flowing ideas of around the world, we don't collaborate with the best of the global partners, we're not going to achieve self-reliance. The idea is to self-reliance that works. It's not for the showing that we have developed something which does not work. So we need to have a high grade of equipment, systems, platforms, which we need a global platform, global collaboration, which not should be ashamed of collaborating. In fact, we should be inviting it, be more competitive, and there we be able to achieve, say, 60%. In fact, the DRDO secretary has been pointing out we need to have at least 5% of the GDP putting into R&D. If we do not do that, we will not be able to self-reliance. Let me put in the context. You heard the Harvard example. Harvard buzzer was sort of stopped by the President Trump, and how much? $2.5 billion. That's just a 1 billion, 2.5 billion from the state government. Harvard generates from alumni associations, so it comes around $8 billion. What is the DRDO budget, by the way? If ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, the entire DRDO budget is 2.5 billion, which goes half into the maintenance of building, personnel. Of course, human resources is important, but only a small portion of that, perhaps 1 billion, goes into capital development, which we call the modernization, the new concept, new military equipment of world order. Having said that, we should give credit to DRDO. Without these limitation, with restraint to budget, they have done a wonderful job cutting across different military platform, which we have seen. Akash is 100% DRDO made by the BEL Bangalore-based company. So we should have these parameters very openly. We should be discussing it as a government machinery, as we talked about, as a theory, as a concept. We should go out in the market among the industry, open to global collaboration, open to competition, open to the setting benchmark in the military, because military technology is a grade higher than the civilian. In fact, we need higher stage of technology to achieve military.
Itself has said that act of terror will be regarded as an aggression. We are having the terrorists in our borders. Attempts have been made, but it was not put into practice that act of terror will be regarded as a war. The next is to General Saab. He has spoken about BrahMos and Akash. What about the Rafale? Could you say something about it?
But sorry, my question, what is your question to me? I mean, what you want to ask, in terms of, if you could just, your question is about what? Like, we are not well defined. I mean, what is that?
My question is that you have rightly said that from defense we have moved to tactical offense. That's rightly said, and that is being done. But the Prime Minister himself has said that act of terror will be regarded as an act of war. In our borders, we are having the terrorist activities is going on. Have we taken the decision for a war?
Okay, to answer your question, look, let me tell you, as General also pointed out, we're still struggling with the way the concept, it's a fixed component there, I'm enemy there, set. Those whole ecosystem is gone. Now you have enemy you can't see. It's beyond your visual range, and that's a complex situation there. We have to understand the fact that war is costly. The Russia-Ukraine war has gone from billion to $1 trillion backed by the United States. Otherwise, a country like Ukraine can't really be doing that. There are multiple factors while the shift is there. I think I'm not a government spokesperson, but what I observe, while the shift is there, the government is also cautious that uh, while they say the act of terrorist war is rightly to say that, but how long we can do, how much should we pull back, and that is how we indicate when you see from the very first press release, government says we have retaliated. We try to hit hard the terrorist installations, but not the military and the civilian. And it's not escalatory. The escalatory word, if you see, government has put in 4 public releases about that. That means government has a cautious approach. And somewhere we have to understand that war is not fault is isolation, is attached with the economy. We are at the very good threshold test point of as emerging economy. We have overtaken Japan. Somehow, I think there's a cautious approach that we do talk about, that we have shown some actions in our tactical offense. We have hit hard in the bases inside the Pakistan in Lahore right after the 1971 war. That's enough indication they should understand that they should not do that again. And if they do, we will again retaliate. But yes, going for a full-fledged war is costly. I think somewhere economy comes into the picture to have a restraint and see how it moves and geopolitical situation moves further on this. Thank you.
Yeah. You had a question, did you? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer about the Rafale. He asked me about the Rafale, but I'll just give you a little sense about the question that you asked about the border also. I've operated there. So during the Kargil war, I was on the LC. I was, as you did mention, I was a brigade major of an infantry brigade on the LC. So in the border, what used to happen then was there would be an attempt for constant infiltration. And the infiltrators would come under cover of darkness and under cover of fire. So they would fire on us, keep our heads down, and then there would be an infiltration happening that side. Whenever a fire would happen for no rhyme or reason, we knew an infiltration was about to happen, kind of. The point is, how do you retaliate to everything? What we haven't heard about in this war is the artillery duels which have taken place on the LC. Nobody's looked at it because the glamour thing was what was happening on Murid and Rahim Yar Khan and all those deeper targets, which were actually for the first time being really hit. But even on the border, a lot of artillery duels have taken place. When I was there, we would see a person, either they would drop us or we would drop them. Then there came a ceasefire. There were some things which were called BAT actions by them, border action teams. The Pakistanis had border action teams. Many of them were supported by terrorists or militants, right? So border action team would come in, create some havoc. The terrorists would go in, the BAT would go back. So there are various kinds of tactics which these people would apply, which perhaps they will start doing now again. In between now, for the last 15 years, there's been a ceasefire. So we were not killing each other on a daily basis. Otherwise, in my time, you saw a movement in a bush and you would do speculative fire to make sure that someone is dropped. But it'll have to be proportionate. So whatever, if there would be, even then we were doing it. If there would be a raid on one of our villages and maybe a civilian was killed, we would give them a punishment. Maybe the same kind of punishment, maybe slightly different kind of punishment, but we would punish them. So that kind of thing will carry on the border, to my sense, and it'll have to be proportionate to the kind of actions that are happening. And then you had the bigger thing, Uri, happened. So then you found that surgical strikes took place. So raids were carried out deeper inside their territory, up to about 5, 7, 10 kilometers, where a terrorist camp. We knew there is a training camp over there. We went and raided and destroyed it. And then you have the bigger thing that has happened this time. So it's been kind of a step up each time, and there will be a range of options which will be used. I'll stop on this issue. As far as the Rafale is concerned, I don't know what you really want to know, but I can see that you very nicely left it. What about the Rafale? So I mean, you know, it could be any number of questions, and you've put it very simply, but it's a very deep question. Now, the first thing I want to say is, why do you want to know? In war, anything will happen. Whether the aircraft came down, didn't come down, I don't even want to know. Not because I'm not interested, but because I don't want it to be known to everybody who will make use of that information. So let's say the Air Force is silent on it, the Indian government is silent on it. Therefore, as far as I can see it, it's an enigma, it remains ambiguous. As far as the French government is concerned, they have already issued a statement, and the French Air Force has issued a statement which said we are examining the possibility that it could have been shot down, and we'll come to know more about it when it happens. I thought that was a very, um a statement which really put things in perspective. Now, why should we not get more into it? We've got the Rafales now. We haven't got the source codes. Became evident it was open knowledge. It shouldn't have been, but it was open knowledge. If we don't have the source codes, we cannot modify it to the kind of weaponry we want. So we are dependent upon the weaponry which was supplied to us with the Rafale aircraft from the French, right? So we'll have to work it out with the French, whether we buy more from them or if we get the source code. So that negotiation will happen. So that I can see is going to happen in the future. If, let us assume for a minute that there was a casualty, obviously there would be certain loopholes which would have got identified. We would have also known which is the weapon system which has got through to it. So there will be some action which will be taken to take care that such weapon systems don't get through next time. It's the same on the other side. We hit air targets, we hit their airfield targets with our missile systems. Now they know how our missile system would have functioned. They also know what is the capability of a missile system. They will take action to make sure that next time it's not as bad as it was this time. We will also have to take action to ensure that whatever they're doing. So you see, most of us wonder what the Forge does. What does the army do or the Air Force do in peacetime? This is what we are doing all the time. Does that answer your question to some extent?
Please.
Thank you, sir. Manish, you've been watching Indian defense very closely. And I'm very curious. We talk of defense technology, and you must have reported civil military fusion, civil military integration. Why don't we implement in India? And there's no demand for corresponding civil R&D initiatives. One very simple example is in 2023, we placed order for 1,150 commercial aircraft. And China placed order for 164 aircraft. And they got a final assembly line for A320neo. Imagine we were about 10 times more. So isn't there a little bit of lack of interest in civil technology which can complement the defense technology? That's point one. Second part is about international collaborations. So just recently mentioned about, source code for Rafale. I'll give you a few more examples because you said we must be open for international collaboration. We wanted fifth generation fighter aircraft with Russia. After spending money, after spending time with them, we got nothing and we had to pull back. And these are not the only projects we are talking of. In fact, even for Rafale, there were long discussion on co-production, which was not agreed to. for a very long time. 114 aircraft got delayed. Negotiations were on having some sort of work being done here. So is it that easy that we go for international collaboration? And are international players open for that collaboration? Unless we understand those nuances, and often when somebody offers you an equipment, always look at your indigenous industry. There must be some system which is coming up. So how that collaborations impact your indigenous industry? How much of assessment has been done? That part has to be kept. So third point is issue of delays. Issue is in very hot on delays in LCA. I think we need to look at, in fact, not only LCA, there are so many projects are getting delayed. If we have to really understand our country's strength, we need to look at what were the financial delays, what were the approval delays, what were the foreign OEM delays. So unless we integrate all these inputs and make corrections in all our organizational systems, we will only be doing, we'll be only touching the surface of the problem. Don't you think there is a deep focus required on addressing some of these issues rather than looking for short-term solutions? So you can add
Yeah,
on these.
Group Captain Narang, a very
I think you said it all.
you said it all, but quickly I said yes. I won't push around the word, and I tell you, we did miss opportunity. Look at talking about every possible country. I see the example of South Korea, how a country which could not produce a simple, I say, artillery now is exporting to us within a short period of time. It is because they were open to collaboration and any procurement. That's what the government made a deal. Any procurement, any item will import military to make sure. In fact, they were allied to United States that there would be certain amount of transfer, and source code, in fact, would be transferred to South Korea. That enabled them to develop a holistic industry slowly. They were able to now do good quality fighter jet. We did lack because we always in a hurry. We always in the plan. Look, we need to do something, because we have a squadron less, or we are not developed, or if we develop something, it will take 20 years. So we lost the moment. For example, I'm talking about MMRC, a multi-role medium aircraft, which is now turned into MRF, a multi-role fighter aircraft. We're still in the process of tender, and what we did in between, because Air Force need to have their capability all the time, so we had to buy Rafale to answer the question. And similar thing we are doing in the civilian space. For example, if we have such a bulk order for Boeing, we could have pushed Boeing to establish, compel them, have a sort of arrangement with the government. Look, if we have it's a 500 aircraft we are buying for long term, it's a whole economy we are buying of a country. We make sure that they do something here, some sort of transfer, assembly line, and then perhaps there could be interplay of these technology. I think we need to do that. And third, why I say, because I've never seen any part of the world, the modern technology space warfare is so radically changing. Until we do not collaborate, whosoever our friendly country, which you have to choose. That's what diplomacy is all about. What is for diplomacy? What is for a friendly country? Definition is all about. We need to be able to have them on our board to build military industrial technology together in India. If we can't do that, the concept of self-reliance would be as fuzzy if we don't address that. And then we see 10 years. We should not be scared of 10 years. For example, aero engine, we can't do it. We have not done it. We have seen Tejas aero engine again supplied by the GE 414. We're again talking about 4 co-development plan built 10 years. If we have to do ourselves, open core source, full blue architecture, we need to collaborate and do it right here with certain government policies that we can't mender away from them. That's the question.
Last 10 minutes. By the way, the book is available. 20% discount. Whoever wants to buy it, the authors will be very happy to autograph them for you.
Just one
Yeah,
small
yeah.
issue here. See, sanctions were put on India and we were denied cryogenic engines. What was the result? It took more time, but we developed a PSLV, right? So we'll make it in due course. The whole problem is we have to be much faster. So if we have to do catch up, we are looking for co-development. For that, our processes have to change. And I mentioned we have to be more agile. And we really have to get into a give and take mode with a lot of our friendly foreign countries. So unless it becomes a focal point for discussion, and that's where the guns versus guns versus what is that? But a debate has to run together now. We cannot afford to say this or that. It has to be both together. You have to look at dual use, and I totally agree with that aspect which you said.
Ambassador Vivian?
Thank you, Chair. I look forward to reading the book, but I wanted to ask a question. Some time back, Chanakya said, among your neighbors, at least will be one who will treat you as its natural enemy. Now, this does not apply in Europe, but perhaps it applies in the subcontinent. And in India's case, both Pakistan and China, for reasons, well, which I don't want to, we need not go into, seem to treat India as a natural enemy. So have you taken that into account in your book when you wanted to have a holistic foreign policy come defense policy? That is to the authors. And if I may, a question to the General Anand. The Air Force chief said about delay in production. Now, I suppose, did it mean the HAL, Hindustan Aircraft Limited also? In which case, in some of the European countries, there would have been a representative of the Air Force on the board of directors of that public sector company. Are we following that? Because if we have, such an arrangement, then perhaps things can be better. Thank you.
Was China question you want me or General to answer it?
Sir, I am not from the diplomacy, but I want to share with very interesting things, sir. But it's my personal view is that it's a very famous book, Art of War. It's a very known book, and I think so. China always used that particular doctrine for every time. So it is true that we must take China, natural enemy, sir, and we must prepare ourselves. Second thing, sir, like the very rightly said, sir, and the discussion is going on. It is true that India is doing well towards the development of the research and all the things. For example, up to the last 2023, we have completed our 55 AI projects as per this is open source information by our different DRDO and all the government agencies. And as per the open source, all the technologies have been deployed for the Operation Sindoor also. Now, what is the problem in India? Because as an academician, as a teacher, I want to share with you. The first, there is a gap between the academic institutions, industry, and policymakers. This is one of the biggest gap in India. The first of all, we must be to collaborate with on single platform. Number one. Number two, it is true that we want to talk about we want to create a AI, but we have required a lot of very high volume of money, because AI is not a simple word. If you want to do the AI research, you have required a lot of infrastructure, and we have required very good kind of electronics and hardware infrastructure. And if simultaneously we develop in India the defense technology in AI, then simultaneously we could easily get the good hardware infrastructure for the other kind of research just for the AI. Second is the ecosystem. In India, we have to need to create a lot of ecosystems for the AI research. And same research output we could use in different fronts, like in our defense, also in our medical sciences, in our biomedical sciences, and everywhere from kitchen to banking sector. And another point is that one is the skill development. Normally, what we think, if you go to the YouTube, you see the YouTube. Normally, we think that within 10 days you learn the AI, or 6 months you may learn the AI. This is impossible. AI is not a plug and play technology. Nowadays, in the industry, and now everywhere, if you see the read paper, everybody is talking about AI, AI, AI. But AI is not a plug and play technology. I spent my 20 years to learn the AI. It has required a lot of devotion, lot of research, lot of study hours. Then you could easily understand the AI. Now, if we create such kind of ecosystem in India, then after 10 or 15 years, we may claim that yes, we have the very big kind of thing. And another point is that about the research, that is research is an evolution process. This is not a one day process. It is not we could not get it within one year or 2 years or 3 years. In the research there are two things. One is either you get the one or zero, means you get a success or failure. As a professor, my personal view is that in research failure is also success. But in Indian mentality we think that if he is failure means a failure. No, because when you say that I am failure means you are getting the more and more valuable input for the future research. Now, in India, we should develop this kind of ecosystem in defense, and I am assuring you from my university, for every university, what is my personal view that our students, they are very bright, they have very good skill about the AI. The requirement that we must give the complete, very beautiful kind of nurturing system for their work, and or we have required to provide them the good, funds. And this is the one of the big problem for us, because normally what we get only if we apply for any project, we get about 10 lakh, 15 lakh. 10 lakh, 15 lakh is not too much for a AI project. If you want to start a AI project, you want to do the AI project, minimum you must have required a 10 CR if you want to do the good kind of project. So a lot of issues are there, but still, first of all, we should start the process. Now, we should be thankful to our government that we have started the process, and I think we'll do something better.
I just add quickly to your China question. In my book, I was trying to attempt to the fact of course, we have not compared with Pakistan, but in terms of China, I have put it, the scale of technology acceleration in China is we just getting sense of that. The China's building warship is so shockingly advanced that USA is falling behind. China's lead talked about AI. China's fighter jet, they have developed their aero engine, which we're still talking about on paper. So my book at least tried to attempt that we need to look further. Now, if we don't address in our ecosystem and systematic, bureaucratic or whatever we call, we won't be able to cover. So that's the attempt to recommendation how we should attempt, the issue, how we should look at very seriously China in terms of technology and military gaps that are happening.
So I want to give you very interesting data. In 1997, the penetration of internet in China was 0.3%, and that time US was 30%. This is an open record. But now you see the which kind of AI China is doing. In 2017, China, they invested $10 trillion for the to create a AI ecosystem in the country, in China itself. Now, see in 1997, 0.3% penetration of internet, and now you see the thing. Basically, what I want to say that nothing is impossible for us. The important thing is we have required. If we are talking about the research, we have required a complete ecosystem in India. It should not be only a think tank word. It should not be only up to the capital word. It must be the in a root level or in node level work. Then we could get something. And important is now that is the government should prepare a very good kind of approach to make a collaboration with the industry and academics. Because always, what is the problem in India when we go for talk with any industry people, they think that no academics could not do anything. This is the problem. But they must think that the industry people, they are from the academics. Basically, once upon a time there was a student somewhere. So that is the problem in India, and we must create a very good kind of plugin system in India between the academics and industry. Then we could do the good problem solving infrastructure.
Yeah, to come to the question that you asked, Ambassador, I think that's the way forward. The model exists. We already have naval officers who are not only on the board but are actually heading dockyards. So Mazagaon dockyards, Garden Reach, um, uh, one or two more shipyards. Just Can't remember them off the top of my head, but we have a model. So I see no reason why we should be doing this. In fact, I would look at it as a joint model. And there are many such cases where PSUs have come into collaboration with private industry, and it could be tripartite. So there would be private industry, there would be HL, which I think they're doing now, and there has to be a F. So you have to have joint MDs, you have to have joint executive directors. You have to knock their heads together with probably a board which regularly pursues why things are not getting done. It can be done. It just needs political will, and I think that political will is what we need to. It's a good time to actually do this, and I think the Air Force chief. Somebody was asking me, should the Air Force chief had said something like this just when Opsendur has got over? And it probably is just a sign that he's been saying it earlier and he's saying it now because he's saying it out of desperation.
Thanks very much, gentlemen, General Anand and Manish and Amit for this lively discussion. Yes, you have a question? Use the microphone, please. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a former colleague of Professor Amit, and like I was scientist in CSR for more than 22 years. Then I worked at IIT Kharagpur and all that as a faculty there. Now the thing is, I'm basically in supply chain, and myself and Professor Amit are collaborating on some aspects of supply chain and AI. Now, any technology or any industry, like we're talking about defense and new technologies in applications. And I agree with Manish ji that you can't be self-reliant in that sense. Like you can't be the topper in every field. You have to depend on somebody else. And supply chain is all about that. So that is where you should know who are your partners and how to deal with your partners and identify them, get into that relationship and all that. So it's a very good discussion. I was really enjoying. And what he said was very correct because you can't be 100% self-reliant. It doesn't work. You can't be the champion in every field. And things are developing very fast. Like as Amit was saying, yeah, what happened 5 years back is what is happening today is very, very different. The dynamics of technology is changing. So we got to depend on some other partners. There is no other way out. So the thing is how to take this forward and how to channelize it, how to strategize it. I think the rule is still there. The field is still very open. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Professor. May I now invite Ashok Sharma to present these mementos to our distinguished panel. Professor Dr. Anand, पहले उनको. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good night.
Thank you, President. Good night.